Okay, my name's Zakashi guys, and in this video here we're going to be doing a tier list for the release of Ultra Margin Vegeta. People have been begging me for a tier list, and honestly I just haven't done one in a while because I haven't been playing the game, and I feel like if I haven't been playing the game, I'm not the right person to judge what's going on in the meta. It just doesn't make sense. I'm damn near ranked 50,000. I'm talking about maybe 4 weeks ago when Sparking Zero dropped. I don't know how long that was, and people are saying, are you going to drop a tier list? I haven't even pressed the PvP button. But following up from that, I wanted to talk about my last tier list. It invited a lot of toxic people. It didn't really faze me. I was enjoying Sparking Zero. Anyways, with that being said, the last time I done a tier list, I did one maybe 1 day or 2 days after the release of Ultra Turlers, and I very much stated in that video that it's a very early tier list and I will probably do another one in the next week. I didn't end up doing another one in the next week. Why? Because Sparking Zero dropped. But if I did the tier list the next week, it would have been a lot more accurate of a representation for what the meta is looking like. However, I don't feel like the tier list was crazily wrong, but it was a lot more putting things in the air rather than solidifying my opinion, which a lot of people couldn't comprehend. Like we all know, tier lists, they bring a lot of toxicity in. People like to come and just slander a lot of people and their opinions, but there are also good people that want to have an open discussion, which is what I try to promote in my video creation. So anything toxic, I'll pretty much just disregard. But the process for my tier list would go as this. I do the honorable mentions and the fan service. I go through the 10th to the 1st spot, and then at the end of the video, I take maybe 5 to 10 minutes myself off screen to evaluate my tier list. As we all know, it's much easier to judge a tier list once you're looking at a finished product than make it step by step, brick by brick. So if I look at my tier list once it's already finished, I might feel like, oh, that does look a bit crazy, let me evaluate it and move it. So if you don't watch the end of the video, you would never grasp my full opinion. And that point, I just disregard the opinion. Anyways, with that being said, I probably should have done a tier list last time, the week after when Turlers released, but like I said, Sparking Zero just took the priority, and I don't really regret that. I'm not gonna lie, I was enjoying my time. But I'm sure you guys will enjoy this video, so without further ado, let's get into this. Before we go anywhere into this video, I need to shout out the boy Dingy, DNGEE_YT. He's the reason I'm able to do this tier list. If you want to make your own tier list, go ahead and give him a follow on Twitter. He's finally hit 4,000 followers. Glad you guys are supporting him. In the same way I wouldn't be able to do this, you guys wouldn't be able to have fun and make your own tier list. The link is right there, tier list template you can see. So if you want to make your own, definitely give the boy a follow. He's now on the grind to 5,000 followers. Okay, so we're here with the tier list. We're starting with the fan service tier and honorable mentions. The fan service is just to make somebody in the comment section happy. They're seeing one of their units enter a tier. That's it. You know, Ultra UI, fun unit to use. I love UVB, you guys know. People love Beast Gohan. Shout out Daima Goku specifically. You guys see all the units there. I'm not going to talk about them too long. We got the honorable mentions though. Honorable mentions are characters that I've seen people somewhat talk about. I am not saying they have a chance to be top 10. I'm just mentioning them because they are somewhat valuable. And I feel like there is somebody out there that will put them in the 10th spot at least. There's somebody out there. And I know that it could apply for any unit, but I'm just saying these units have somewhat value that can be used, and I can see somebody saying, oh, they think that unit's top 10. I don't necessarily agree, but if somebody said that, and you know, I'm not going to come to them with weapons and war them over some simple thing like that. It's not that deep, you know, it's just a tier list. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about the honorable mentions. If I was to move anybody up though, maybe Garlic Jr., Shin, Super Baby 2, I'd say those 3 over anybody else first potentially. Maybe Gogeta Blue as well, but yeah. Those are my honorable mentions and the fan service. The fan service could be anything, but honorable mentions, I know people see them as somewhat valuable, but they're not making my top 10. I don't think it's that big of a deal. If you're going to debate the honorable mentions, you're probably a crybaby about every single spot, which is not that deep. Alright, so we got number 10 on the list, and I feel like the number 10 spot is very much prone to change, but I feel like it's fine where it is, you know. We got Evil Majin Buu. Now, this guy could be higher on the list if he had a lot more value in his kit. And that's already saying a lot because this guy is quite insane. But let me explain why I say that. If he had a bit more value, and I'm talking about maybe just endurance, literally just the endurance factor, this guy would be a top 5, 6, at the lowest 7 unit in the game. But I've only got him at 10 because his core value in this game currently is in Proud Battle. If you're using him in standard, he will still get you places. Do not get it twisted. This guy is very, very good. I use him with Zenkai Kid Buu on my budget Majin Buu Saga team, and he often carries, you know. But simply because there are better options than him, you often see him sidelined nowadays because of how stacked the game is currently now. Like everybody knows, there's been a huge power shift since the anniversary, and that's not a long amount of time. There's probably going to be a bigger one in the festival, but this guy went from being on every single Majin Buu Saga setup to maybe not making it at all because of the units that have dropped. So for that reason, I think the best he can go is 10. He can also fit on powerful opponents. Nobody's really using regeneration, you know, but regeneration is probably just an offspring of powerful opponents to a degree, especially right now, you know. But Evil Majin Buu, what does he do, you know? I think his main selling point is the fact that he's able to tank a lot, he's able to go type neutral, and he's able to cancel buffs. Those three alongside with his teammates. And personally for him, it's just the three. But because he's attributed to Majin Buu Saga such a powerful team, because he's attributed to powerful opponent with such a powerful team, there's so many good units on both of those teams, he's able to stand very easily in a top 10 list, and that's why I've got him at the number 10 spot. But obviously, because they're just better options, is he really going to be your first pick out of 3 units you could pick on either powerful opponents or Majin Buu Saga? You really got to think about it like that, and in most cases your answer is going to be no. So putting him lower than 10, to me, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. I'm not going to come at someone's throat if they're at like an 8 or 9. I don't think he should be higher than that though, just based on how the game is running right now. But in Proud Battle, if this was a strictly Proud Battle, I'm kind of trying to balance both of this list. But if this was a strictly Proud Battle one, he'd be pretty much higher, I'm not going to lie. But in Standard, I feel like he's not a first round pick at all. He's not one of the top 3 units you'd pick on either Majin Buu Saga or powerful opponent, just based on the survivability factors in the game. That's not to say he can't be valuable, because like I said, his buff cancellation, healing, ability to tank. He also can do offensive stuff as well because he has an ultimate. You know, he does good damage, blast damage. Overall, he's a good unit. He's a good unit. It's just that there's better units, and I think that's really the cutting line for him. All right, so we've got the 8th and the 9th spot on this tier list. We've got 2 Fusion Warriors, and this could be controversial, but I've already seen a lot of people downplaying both of these units heavily. But I think 8 and 9 is a very good and safe spot for both of them. Interchangeable, that's why it's 8 and 9, but I'm low-key having fusing Super Vegeta higher than G4 at the current moment. G4 is still very valuable, and I think he could be way higher if you're only considering his last man standing sense. But you know, I'm going to talk about them both right now. Let me start with fusing Super Vegeta first, since I'm considering him slightly higher at the moment. So you guys should know, if you know me, I think fusing Super Vegeta's Rising Rush mechanic is the most busted mechanic in the game. It's basically a free life, and because of that, he's just a safe option to pick. Outside of that, he just gains his Dragon Balls pretty fast. He also gives you 2 lives to a degree, so you can allow him to tank a lot of damage, and then you can basically just transform and then get a full bar of health. Of course, it's not endurance, so you have to be careful with letting him die, and he's not immune to like rushes and big ultimates and things like that, but he still does get a full regen, you know, if you need it. So the Dragon Ball aspect is super good. You get Rising Rush, not just for him to use, but if he is using it, it's basically a free bar of health, you know. And I think that's going to be invaluable at any point in the game. Now, the only thing stopping him is the fact that most characters nowadays and most teams have double the lives. So normally, like in the 6th anniversary or back in the day, everybody would just have 3 lives on your team. Every unit has 1 life. But nowadays, we got Indestructible, Revival, Comeback, and on top of that, the buff cancellations, all these extra factors that make it hard for fusing Super Vegeta to get 1 Rising Rush and actually take you out. So at this point, if you're using fusing Super Vegeta, you're not using him because you're going to get a kill. You're using it because you just want to get a Rising Rush and a full bar of health down, which is still super effective. There is some people that he can Rising Rush, and I'm going to attribute that immediately to the likes of Gotenks, Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks, and Ultra Majin Vegeta, who are also his teammates, but also units that are relevant very much right now, used almost every single game. He is the one unit that can easily take both of them out. Ultra Majin Vegeta doesn't cancel buffs off Rising Rushes, and Gotenks is just not protecting you even though he has endurance. So plus blue beats red, you know. It's not a 1v1 game, but that's just a factor. So for me personally, using fusing Super Vegeta is a safe option. Outside of that, obviously, if you're dealing with the likes of like Ultimate Gohan or Mega Shenron, even Evil Majin Buu just cancelling the buff and then you switch out to a person who has endurance, it makes it very difficult to break through. But fusing Super Vegeta has those other factors which I mentioned, especially because he has a good team as well. He's on Majin Buu Saga, so that allows him to technically have 2 lives. Let's say you're running his health low. If you want to just switch out after that, if a Rising Rush comes, he'll survive, and then you switch out to somebody who's going to have endurance or something like that, and they'll live. Do you see what I'm saying? So then you can just switch back into him and then get your full health, full life of health, you know? It's kind of like having two lives but on a budget, but on the offensive end, it's probably one of the safest ways to get a full bar of health. But that's my arguments for Super Vegeta. It's just that he's somehow shut down from people above him, but at the same time, he's still getting you a free bar of health, so I can't put him higher, but he shouldn't be any lower in my opinion. Putting him at 10 is way too low. 8 and 9 just seems about right for me. Now let's talk about Ultra Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, because it's quite a shift, but remember, I haven't done a tier list in a while. He would have been lower anyways. If you want to know where I would have put him after the first week of tier list being out, I would have moved him to maybe the 5th or 4th spot. At the start, it was really G4 still being used for his counter, and I feel like that's very much so valuable. Even right now, you can still use him for his counter, and that alone will keep you alive for a long time. I'm not gonna lie, you can still get his ultimate off, especially against the likes of Gotenks. It can still be useful, and if you ultimate somebody who doesn't cancel buffs, you use G4's ultimate from the sideline into somebody who's going to switch out if you time it correctly. Very situational though, which is why it's obviously not a pro, sorry. It's not a benefit to him that he can do that off a cover change, because all those other characters nerf him. But yeah, there's just a lot of things that really put him down. You know, Triku, generally speaking, a lot of characters, not just Triku, but a lot of characters just stop the health restoration. My main point for G4 being G4 as to why I would use him is the fact that his counter would be amazing. But then if you're not healing the health, you can't take the damage to fill your gauge to get another counter. So the odds of him dying is super fast. He can't do as much damage as he used to. Him going type neutral last line standing is very useful, but then if he tries to do anything off his main ability, if he hits an ultimate, you know, it's just going to get cancelled. It's very easy to get around. He can't do as much damage because people are just cutting it down. And of course, there's just yellow that's valuable, specifically Triku, who's being used with the best units in the game. So it's just very hard to go around, and I shouldn't have to explain the elephant in the room. Ultra Majin Vegeta, who's really just shut this guy down even more with that lock-in ultimate, you know. It's not that G4 can't be used, but there's too many guns pointed at him to say that he's really like high in the game. You can use him and get super far without a doubt. I'm not saying he's bad. Obviously, every unit on this list is on this list for a reason. I still use him. He's my most used unit right now. But if you had the choice to use somebody else, they'd probably get you the same results and easier. And that's really what the tier list is about, in my opinion. So 8 and 9 seems about right. He's been knocked down because of all these counters. The counters have done a really good job, unlike like last year. They tried to do Ultra Vegeta Blue dirty, but he was really fighting through very easily. I feel like they got G4 out of here a lot simpler, you know. G4 really needs something like survivability. His counter does keep him alive, but if he's not getting the health restoration, it's not going to allow him to get all his counters off. He'll be able to get 2 health max unless you're using him at 14 stars. That's my case. So yeah, he's not going higher than 9. Maybe at the end I'll evaluate and maybe move it, but for now I think 9 seems like a safe option. Let me know what you think about that, because I know a lot of people are going to see that as controversial. But yeah, especially in most of my games, fusing Super Vegeta's Rise and Rush just seems so much safer. Pairing him with the Majin Buu Saga guys, it's not even a match, man. It's pretty solid. Next up, we got Omega Shenron. Omega Shenron here, Mr. Indestructible. Now, as of late, because of all the Majin Buu Saga buffs, I feel like people have only been using Omega Shenron because of his Indestructible. Obviously, he does have a good element as well, but this is not a 1v1 game. It's a 3v3 game. Saving grace that he is green though, because he's able to counter Turles, who's being used on a lot of teams because of the survivability. But Omega Shenron also goes on that team, which is powerful opponent. Now the other team Omega Shenron will probably run on is the likes of GT, but GT's kind of phased out, so his main value is powerful opponent out of anything. You might see him maybe leader slotted on Majin Buu Saga, but then again, it's most likely powerful opponent with Kid Buu and Evil Buu. You know, you want the Z abilities and the equipments to match very well. So because of that, he doesn't have a strong secondary team, and I feel like he shouldn't go higher than 7, and once you see the people that are higher, it would make a lot more sense as well. But if he wasn't green, this guy would maybe be at the 10th spot, I swear to you. The Indestructible is saving him already, but if he wasn't green, it could be a completely different story. But even him going type neutral a lot, he was surviving against the likes of Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, so maybe I'm wrong on that. Overall, he's not a bad unit. He does do good damage, definitely a lot of blast damage, and like I've said for like the 5th time, if he didn't have Indestructible, which is like taking off the bulk of his kit, but the Indestructible is really his saving grace. A lot of people are opting in for other options, what I've seen, and because he's specifically only used on one team, you know, powerful opponent, I feel like his stock is not as high as it could be. Unfortunately, GT is not what it is. Hopefully we get a GT Ultra in the festival, and then you will definitely see his value go up. But for now, I don't see him going higher than 7 just off the fact that he only has one team alone. Him alone as a unit, he's not even your frontline man. You're bringing him as a survivability factor to keep your team alive and basically grieve whoever you're using on the opposite end. He can do a lot, I'm not gonna lie. For example, he has his ultimate that he can spawn from a green card, and that can do a lot of damage and take you out. It's very surprising, you know, and it's a long range one, so it can catch you really off guard if you use it correctly, and even do like a drop combo reset, which is a very good tech. I use it with using Super Vegeta. All the guys that know. So he's not a scrub on his own, don't get it twisted. But I think the guys above him, it's just one of those things where those guys are a lot more valuable for the reasons of this guy having lesser to offer, whereas those guys have more to offer and better synergy with a lot of guys in the higher ranks of the tier list. Next up, we got the likes of Zenkai Kid Buu. I remember when Ultra Turles came out, a lot of people were debating who's better, Omega Shenron and Zenkai Kid Buu. And I'm on Team Kid Buu right now. Majin Buu Saga stocks are just too high, man. They're just too high. Unlike Omega Shenron, Kid Buu's also got the teams in his favor, not just powerful opponents, but he can also be used on Majin Buu Saga, clearly the best team in the game with the most stock right now. Majin Buu Saga has so many endurance units, and Kid Buu's one of them. That just makes him super fruitful, man. His blast damage is absurd, his vanish recovery is insane, he can do insane damage with his ultimate arts as well. He's pretty much offering you everything except buff cancellation, you know. He has the cover null, I think he gets that from his blast arts. Overall, he's just giving you things that you need. I think he can even cancel enemy buffs off his main ability. This guy is absolutely out of his world for a Zenkai. He's lasting quite a while because of his teammates also being good. So that attributes to him a lot, you know. If you want to run Majin Buu Saga and you put him on the team, you probably already have 2 other endurance units that's already making the team stacked. Maybe 1 or 2 of them cancel buffs. So you don't even need Kid Buu to cancel buffs because you can just use him as a sack-off who's not even going to die because he has endurance. So you cancel buffs from the outside and then bring him in, which is just super nasty, man. His element's also good. There's not that many greens to take him out. Omega's obviously an option, but like I told you, the teams. Evil Buu's an option, but the teams. So as a blue, you're pretty safe, I'm not going to lie. Unlike other elements, for example, if you are currently green, you have to deal with the likes of so many purples that could possibly exist. Not necessarily in the top 10, but just to mention a few: G4, Ultimate Gohan, Garlic Jr., Golden Frieza, maybe even Ultra Broly. But you can't name anywhere near that many greens to counter any blues, and I think that makes Kid Buu a lot safer of an option against Omega. Also, in terms of team options when you're picking them, maybe not on powerful opponents because Ultra Turles exist, but on Majin Buu Saga, people do prefer the triple endurance option big time. So, like I said, similar to Omega Shenron, he might not make the first team on powerful opponent. But on Majin Buu Saga, especially Proud Battle as well, that guy is seeing the team for real. Without a doubt, that guy is there. Kid Buu, man, you had a good come up because that guy was trash before his Zenkai. That guy was absolute fodder. The come up for Kid Buu is out of this world. I think he's going to hang around the top 10 list for a long while, maybe the rest of the year. We'll see about that though, but I think his stock is pretty much evident in the meta for multiple reasons, and I've explained most of them. Next up at the number 5 spot, so we're in the big leagues of the tier list now, we got Triku. Now Triku, I always will say this guy is very lucky Ultra Turles exists, man. On his own, he is not the demon people make him out to be. Guys be fake demons, but this guy is not trash by any means. Don't get it twisted. I'm not trying to downplay him, but I'm simply saying he's able to shine because he has the protective layers, which is his team. Ultra Turles gives this guy so much backup, he's able to run freely. Now I do understand that you can run Triku with other people, but who are you going to run him with? People with survivability layers, right or wrong? Triku himself, he doesn't have survivability layers. Yes, you can rush him pretty much at any point and take him out. Fusing Super Vegeta is shredding that guy, for example. Obviously, he does cancel buffs. If there's no switching applied, he's going to shut that down. And specifically for G4, who was a monster in PvP, everybody knows, he's going to cut down that health restoration, take away that type neutral. No ultimates will be going off in his domain. Triku, I'm not gonna lie, you got it. Because at first, people weren't respecting your game. Even though you were the direct counter to G4, you didn't have the team to make you really flourish. You didn't have the protective layer to see yourself shine. But now that you've got a superstar on your team, you know, you got Ultra Turlers in the front lines for you, you're able to just add that support layer and do some cool things as well in addition. For example, I believe when he hits a blue card, he gets his vanish back, which is super useful. His green card, even though it's a long animation, bro, that green card is annoying. It's like he's always got one too. Boy, hey, overall, you can clearly see I don't value him as an individual. I value him as a very valuable, that's poor vocab. I value him as a very talented team player. That's how I see him. He's not a sole individual that you'll see on the list and be like, oh, he's there because he can slam your whole team on his own. He can if he's decently starred, but that's not his sole purpose on any team. It's really to cut down the ability of monsters being able to shut down your team, specifically the likes of Ultra Super Saiyan 4 Gogetas, which is why he's got down there. He wasn't even going to be anywhere in the top 5 in the first place with UMV releasing, but even with just Triku, G4 would be debatably in the top 5. Do you get what I'm saying? So there's already strong forces working against G4. Triku is one of them, and that is one of the reasons why his stock is so high. Take Triku out the game, this whole tier list could look very different. But of course, Triku is in the game, and for that alone, we have to respect it. You're pressing the biggest unit in the game. Not anymore, because UMV's in the game, but you was and still are pressing one of the biggest demons in this game, Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. I don't know if it's me, but I haven't seen a lot of prop for Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks. I think Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks is actually crazy. He might have the highest, might be pushing it, but it's very high in terms of his 1v3 potential. To have very high 1v3 potential, I think what you need is good combos. You need to be able to do long combos and good combos. So his damage is good and he's able to do long combos. He's able to get cover null very easily. That's super valuable. You're going to need a lot of type neutral so you can break through in the scenario you're having to deal with type advantage characters. And there are a lot of blues in this list. Then on top of that, you're going to need vanish recovery. If you can't get your vanish back, you get one combo out, you're done. You don't necessarily need the survivability, which is the 5th point. You don't need the survivability, but if you do have it, it does make it a lot easier to survive a 1v3. And that alone is enough stock to say that Gotenks should be in the top 5. Gotenks as a sole fighter is causing you problems if you give him the chance. Vanish recovery, extension of combos, type neutral. He's being able to press you very easily, and unless you have the ability to just nullify endurance, which everybody else on ultimate, but Rise and Rushes, no. He's going to have that survivability factor. If you don't have a rush, you gotta be careful. You know, late game, if you use your ultimates already, it's done. But that's him as an individual. If you add him to the team he's contributing to. 2 teams that are very good. First one, the best team in the game, Majin Buu Saga, without a doubt. Majin Buu Saga with the likes of Ultimate Gohan, Ultra Majin Vegeta, Super Vegito, Kid Buu, Evil Majin Buu. There's just so much juice on that team, and this is one of those guys with endurance. With a lot of those endurance characters, come on man, it's just a beautiful, beautiful pick, especially when he's doing his offensive stuff. But then you also put him alongside Fusion Warriors, because he's a survivability unit. You could put him on Fusion Warriors, and that's going to be a nice pick, you know, alongside the likes of G4, Omega Shenron can play on that team. Fusion Super Vegito, nasty, man. Very solid unit overall. I just haven't seen enough people talk about him, but I really felt the need to speak about him. I summoned for him just because I thought he was cool, but he's ended up being such an actual fantastic unit. And he's a very good addition to Majin Buu Saga. He's not too much, but he's not too little. He fits in just perfectly, and if you want to use him, you can. You don't need him, but at the same time, he is a better option than a lot of other people's because of all of those factors in a circle that he can consistently apply on the battlefield, which is why I have to give him his props, man. Shout out the boy, Super Saiyan 3. Ta-da! Gotenks, making the 4th spot on this list. Okay, so we got number 3, and this was very difficult, but not really at the same time. I feel like Ultimate Gohan might be the most oppressive proud battle unit in the game. You know, he doesn't need any Zenkai buffs or any extra support. He's just doing it solo dolo, cancelling his own buffs, healing from that, and doing crazy damage, being able to get his vanish back pretty easily, throwing out blue cards every second, and he can just take your vanish. It's a lot to ask for, but Ultimate Gohan got all of that, you know. It's very unnecessary. He's also a pretty good element as well, so he's kind of able to run how he wants to run. He's got he's got the best team in the game, and he's got a lot of good support layers in general. So All of that alone is enough to just say, yeah, Ultimate Gohan top 3. That's fine, that's fine, that's fine. But should I glaze him some more, you know? Should I glaze him some more? Should I? I'm going to. This guy here, yeah, dropped in the 6th anniversary for no reason with the most mediocre animations just to be one of the most goated units of all time. For no reason. For no reason. You know, I think him being able to have endurance is excessive. Everybody should think that. But then also cancelling buffs on top of that, bro, like, I asked for cake, but like you're putting extra icing and glazing on the top. Like, take it easy, you know? Flipping hell, Ultimate Gohan, fine, you're an anniversary unit, but you didn't need to have all that. And then just to have the best team in the game with Majin Buu Saga buffs on the horizon, which we didn't even know at the time. They did a bit much with Ultimate Gohan, man. They knew what they were doing. They saw a Gohan and they just wanted to give us PTSD again. And they did that. Ultimate Gohan, by the way, is the most used unit for PvP in BR70 and above. And that alone should tell you a lot about this guy. The most used. Obviously, Ultra Majin Vegeta hasn't been considered yet, but that includes the likes of G4 and Turles. Ultimate Gohan is a demon, man. I'm not going to speak more about him from now, but, you know, give him his flowers. He could easily, potentially, in some people's eyes, be interchangeable with 2, but I feel like 2 and 1 are just like, you know, it just makes sense. Number 2, we've got Ultra Turles, such a nasty boy. And this guy here, he's a monster, man. He's really good. He's really good. Without a doubt, when he dropped in the game, he was able to easily match the top class of the game. It was very apparent. Everybody saw him at the top of the game. If you wasn't seeing him as a top 1 unit, you're just bugging. You're just bugging. You was completely in the wrong room, because this guy here on release was immediately able to match that conversation very easily. He has a lot of factors going for him, but let's talk about the elephant in the room. It's his comeback. The comeback, I always propped it with Golden Frieza once I figured it out, obviously. Comeback is just a technical term to separate you from the revival nerds, because revival, there's a lot of characters that are anti-revival. For example, at the start, it was like LF, Super Saiyan 4, Gogeta, right? Even Ultra G4 has a anti-revival mechanic where he stops you from healing. So if you have comeback instead, you don't fall under that bracket, meaning that G4's ultimate is not going to stop you from healing the health that you would once your comeback kicks in, which makes it just a lot more better. Your kit doesn't change when your comeback activates, which is just something to be mentioned, but this guy gets a lot from the comeback, you know. He becomes immune to a lot of stuff like destruction of cards and key reduction, you know. So that makes him basically immune on the battlefield. I believe he goes type neutral. I think it's to damage sustained permanently, which is absolutely insane. He's overall just a super tanky unit. He has a very good team and he heals a bunch. So this guy is just super protected while having a very good element. I already spoke about how there's not many threatening greens right now, to the point where even some people have been trying to ask me about Ultra Super Saiyan 2 Gohan. I'm not saying this guy is unusable, but the fact that this guy is being brought into conversations when there's these basically same couple teams of these units being used every single game, it shows that they really want to take out a blue unit when they don't have many options at that. So Ultra Turles' value should be non-negotiable, really. He should be a top 1, top 2 standard. He could easily be top 1 depending on whose eyes you're looking for, but I think for now I have him at 2. I might dispute that later, but we'll talk about it. There's not much to say as well. He fits very well with Triku, which is a very good combination. Like I said, best duo in the game when it comes to countering the likes of Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. But just in general, they're super tanky as a duo together. The health restoration against the enemy is nuts. They both have good damage output for real. Triku not as much, which is why he's lower, but Turles for sure. And obviously the survivability is just nice. This guy cancels buffs as well. So overall, you know, Turles being 2, it's not even ridiculous at all. I don't think I need to say much more. He could be higher, like I said, but I think 2 is pretty a safe position for him. Ultra Majin Vegeta, the character that has taken the whole game by storm. Very good bait before the festival, but not really a bait because everybody's a big fan of Majin Vegeta. I think most people are, let me not say everybody. So it's something people would summon for regardless, you know. I don't feel like you're getting baited if it's something you like, and people really like Majin Vegeta. But if we refer to last year, I don't think people are really fans of Ultra Super Janemba. Let's be honest, it's not even comparable. But here we have Ultra Margin Vegeta taking the game by storm. He's doing everything you need him to do. Let's first start with his element choice. His element choice is a really good option. I feel like the red is maybe one of the weakest element right now, but nonetheless it allows him to easily fit on his team, Majin Buu Saga. No other yellow in Majin Buu Saga, let's be honest. Were you running free to play 18? Like Majin Buu Saga has got something, but it's not even on the level of like, yeah, you have a yellow that's solid, you know what I mean? You'd rather go without it. So he got a good element option for his team in the meta as well. There's not very strong reds in my opinion. Red might be maybe the weakest or second weakest option in the game as an element. But yeah, let's go into his kit now more than anything. So he has an explosive green, which is very difficult to go around. You know, he has blast armor, which is obviously very good. His main ability can seal rising rushes. The biggest gimmick in his kit is the fact that he has the counter. So if you guys don't know, he has the G4 counter, but they've dimmed it down to basically only blast arts. So it's like Gogeta Blue, the Ultra. So he can only counter things from blast arts, but his kit basically forces you to use blast arts. It like seals strike arts, puts strike arts away. You know, it's just gonna force you in a way. Increase cost is gonna force you to use blast arts, so that his counter can go off, and then from that you get like a sly feint which you can chain into a blue card, and he gets a blue card every single time. He can only use his counter 3 times, but that's way more than enough, same as G4 Ultra Gogeta Blue. And in addition to that, these two things he didn't need. It is slightly nerfed, but barely nerfed at that. He has endurance, very unnecessary. He didn't need that. Majin Buu Saga already has so much. He didn't need that. But then they give him the buff cancellations from blue cards, from ultimates, from awakened, but they decided to take off the rising rush aspect. They said, ah man, it's not a Gohan, so we just gotta take off just a little. But they really wanted to give the Majin Buu Saga Generation of Miracles team just more than it needed. You know, we got Akashi over here doing everything. We got Almine Daiki on the team now. They wanted to add Kurko over here. Like they really got the Generations of Miracles on Majin Buu Saga for no reason. But then in addition to that, obviously he has his other tags. So I'm just gonna mention a lot. You got Vegeta Clan, it's not top team or whatever. You can run him on Saiyans. That's a good team. Saiyans is actually a very valuable team. Not gonna lie. Already mentioned Majin Buu Saga, so that's free. Am I missing anything? I think those are the main ones. You run him on Saiyans and Majin Buu Saga. Those teams are powerful. He's not a powerful opponent, but people are leader slowing him there because of how valuable his individual kit is, and it's not restricted to any tags as well. So yeah, I kind of just went around in circles, I feel like, but I don't think I did actually. But you guys heard the explanation. You guys should not really be debating Ultra Majin Vegeta in my opinion. I think he's safe at number 1, but let me know what you guys think about that. And now we're gonna get into the evaluation, so some things might shift around. Okay, so I sat around and looked at my tier list for a while, and there were some things I was debating for a while as well, so let me get over it. So first we have the likes of these two. Let's start at the top. So we have Ultra Majin Vegeta and Turles. I feel like they could easily be interchangeable depending on how you wanted to play the game. A lot of people are a big fan of like the oppressive playstyle where you do a lot of damage and output, you know. So Majin Vegeta has kind of brought that back. You get to press people. You could play it passive as well because he does have endurance, but people are enjoying the high damage that Ultra Majin Vegeta has brought to the game. So if you wanted to play that way with Majin Buu Saga with the likes of Ultimate Gohan, maybe Gotenks, you definitely could. So people would value high power over the defensive side. But then depending on your playstyle, you might want to go for Ultra Turles and build the most tanky defensive team ever and do damage gradually while basically not dying ever. I've seen a team with Triku, Turles, and Garlic Jr. Bro, you got Comeback. You got the endurance from Garlic Jr. and then Triku just cancelling buffs, and you know what, everything else he does with the health restoration and things like that. He's basically making it almost impossible for you to break that team down. So depending on the route you wanted to take, I think if you wanted to go survivability, Turles is a clear top 1. You'll win games off being trash, but you're not dying, and you're probably doing equal or just lesser amount of damage. But this team has high survivability anyways, and it probably has more damage. So how do you want to value it? Do you want to go Ultra Majin Vegeta is better, or do you want to go Turles is better? So I think I'm gonna make this actually interchangeable. Then we'll have this at number 3. So those two guys is something I thought about very heavily. It depends on your playstyle, and I think that's fine. The other thing I thought about here at 6 is Kid Buu and Omega Shenron. So at first I very much valued Kid Buu, but I completely forgot that Omega Shenron can be used on Fusion Warriors. Now, even though he can be used on Fusion Warriors, do you want to value that? It's going to be Omega G4, so the counters going off, and then Gold Tanks with the endurance. The only issue is with the Fusion Warrior variation, it can do damage, but there's no like protection in terms of buff cancellation. So if you rush through this guy with like Fusion Super Vegeta, you just ultimate him, he'll die. You can't get through this, and this guy's getting countered by like Triku. So I think myself, I would still very much so value the likes of, you know, Kid Buu over this, even though this guy can go on Fusion Warriors in addition. I just wanted to add that to my explanation because I didn't bring it up earlier. I was also contemplating bringing this guy up because of the Fusion Warrior option. So I think the best way to run Fusion Warriors would be to add more survivability. Even though Fusion Warriors is a high damage team, high damage is not going to get you to the top ranks of PvP because everybody else is running off survivability. So Fusion Warriors has to kind of follow suit to some degree while keeping their damage aspects. So they'll be adding Gold Tanks to the mix and Omega Shenron. So that could actually easily promote G4 over the likes of Fusion Super Vegeta, making these two interchangeable for more different reasons and leaving Fusion Super Vegeta down below. I don't know if that makes sense, but I feel like that's a route you could take with it. So I'm thinking to go 7, 8 here and then leaving Fusion Super Vegeta at 9. But if you don't consider the Fusion Warrior team with Omega, if you have Omega leader slot, it would work. But if you don't, then G4 would be down here just below Fusion Super Vegeta. Again, it depends on your playstyle heavily, and I feel like the safest way to go is for the survivability teams because that's what everybody's running. So I could easily see a lot of people putting G4 just a bit higher that way, but I would keep him on the back end because he's not the reason the team is like doing numbers now. Before he would have been because of the high damage, but you're taking the template of having survivability to allow you to compete, and that's what's keeping you in the game over G4's individuality. Hopefully that makes sense, but it's still like, you know, enough to put him over Fusion Super Vegeta, even though you could run Fusion Super Vegeta because of Majin Buu Saga. Just depends on how you want to value it, but I think either way, whether you want to keep him at 9, 8 or 7, it's fine. So I'm just going to put him at 7, 8 and I think it's fine, but you could easily have him at 9 as well. So yeah, besides from that, it's pretty much just, this is going to be 1, 2, so we're going to do that, and then this is going to be 3, and I'm just going to take this off, delete row, and then this would be pretty much the complete. Again, it's very tight list on the lower end. The top I'm not too fussed about, but I feel like people might want to say that Turles is more valuable than Ultra Majin Vegeta. I could easily see that as well, for reasons depending on your playstyle. But yeah, this is going to be my final list. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed the whole video and you made it to the end from the start so you could generally hear all my reasons. Let me know in the comment section what you liked, what you disliked. If there's not more than 2 places, it's not going to be like you'll be micromanaging at that point, but I'm very open to criticism as long as it's valid. You know, if you're just saying trash list or something, I'm just going to disregard it. It's not that deep anyways, it's just a video on a tier list. But hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. If you haven't already, make sure to press that subscribe button. We're on this grind to 200,000 subscribers. I appreciate you guys for watching, man. My name is Zakashi, guys, and I will see you guys in the next one, man.